Good afternoon, viewers. Today I'm doing a follow-up video to my first video. I'm towing the Arctic Wolf. Once again, I have a 29-foot Arctic Wolf 291 RL rear living, and I am towing it with the F350 and the Godzilla up to a campground in south central Wisconsin. So this drive has got some small climbs to it. There's a bit of a headwind today too. There's the wind is gusting about 20 to maybe even up to 30 miles an hour today. So I have a little bit of a headwind. I got to get over here. I'm coming up on a police officer's got, I think somebody pulled over. Anyways, I'm going to be going up a couple small to medium climbs, nothing huge. South central Wisconsin is not really super hilly. It's fairly flat. But on this route, there are a couple decent climbs, probably anywhere from 3 to 6% grades. And I will be filming a little bit of the gauges as I'm going up some of these climbs today. I don't have anyone in the vehicle with me because my wife and daughter are trailing behind me. Probably about what we normally tow. I think in my last video I mentioned I run about 18,000 pounds fully loaded when I'm towing with the camper and all of our gear and a couple people in it. So without some of the other passengers, I might even be a little bit lighter today. But I will be once we get to some of the climbs, I'm going to shut the camera off, and then I'm going to flip it around, and then I'll talk about how the truck is performing with the 10-speed transmission and the 7.3 liter Godzilla. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording for now, and then I'll bring it back up. I come to a stop sign up here, so once I do that, I can get the camera down and flip it around and get ready for some of those climbs. So we have a bit of a climb coming up here, probably only 1 to 3% grade, and I'm just going to maintain about 60 because the traffic in front of me this is 55 on this highway. So as I maintain 60 degrees up this climb, you'll get a feel for what the engine and the transmission are doing. So pretty typical. We had a 2 to 3% grade there. As we get to the top, I mean, really only running about 3,500 RPMs to get to the top of that grade. Engine's really not working too hard. We're gonna go back down the bottom of this hill, and then we have another climb up ahead. So I'm going to film again up this next climb. You'll see once again, this time I'm just gonna set the cruise for 61, and you'll get a bit of a feel for how the engine and the transmission work together. I'm guessing on this climb, once again, I'm probably gonna hit about 3,500 RPMs as we start to make this climb. It's a pretty decent climb. I think this is gonna be a 2 or 3% grade, and you should start to see the truck kick down here. We'll probably get down into 6th gear, I'm guessing, as we start to go up this climb. See, we're down into 5th. It's about a 3% grade there. And this, goes back to what I talked about a little bit in my first video. You can probably hear the engine, with the microphone. It's nothing obnoxious. It's not really bad. And I think inherently a diesel probably, the newer diesels were quieter, but inherently the diesels, I think, run a little bit louder anyways. So I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. It doesn't bother me personally. It's just a little bit more noise. We have another climb here, and this is probably only gonna be about a 1 or 2% grade. It's really not gonna make the engine do much more, or the transmission, than what it's doing right now. Very easily maintaining 61 miles an hour. Not really a problem. And this really just gets back to what I talked about in my first video. Once again, I have probably about 9,000 pounds in, in camper and payload right now. And this truck the engine is really just hardly working. These are only 3% grades. In the mountains, you're looking at 5, 6 or more % grades. So in Wisconsin here, we don't have those types of, we have a couple of them, but we don't have those types of grades in this state, which, harks back to the same point. I don't really, other than when we go out west or down south and go through the, some of the mountains down there, I really don't ever see the need for that diesel, which, sort of goes back to my original point. With 9,000 pounds, I feel that this truck can handle easily handle anything that I need to throw at it with this camper. Now, if I upgrade campers and someday and get a 10 to 15,000 pound camper, well, maybe I'll change my mind. But I think there's a large amount of people out there that have campers similar to what I have, or maybe a little bigger, and I think those people are going to be really happy with this camper. I'm coming up into a town here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the video off, and I'll pick it up maybe a little bit later. So we're off. We're almost to the campground here, and I just wanted to give you a quick overview on the gas mileage. This is really typical for what I see when we're on trips. No huge grades, not a lot of hills. Fairly flat towing. I'm going to average about 8 miles to the gallon. Now, some of this driving was at 55 miles an hour because we're on some county highways. So a little slower, than out on the interstate where we might be, maintaining 2,500 to 3,500 RPM, a little bit more. But once again, this is really typical gas mileage. I might get 7.5 on an interstate if it's windy. With some back roads here and it only being 55, I'm averaging 8.1, and by and large, this is pretty accurate. If I did the math, it might be a little bit less at the end of this trip and did the actual calculation by hand, but I've generally found it's within a mile, per gallon difference. That pretty much concludes the trip. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe and like.